Welcome everyone to our webinar, When and How to Start Your GMAT Prep. Thank you for joining us on time today. We would really appreciate it if you put yourself on mute, and if at any point in the webinar you have a question, please feel free to send it on the chat box. So today we are going to discover exactly when and how to start your GMAT preparation. Because we realize that, for some of us, it is like after working for a while, we all want to go for our GMAT, we all want to go for our MBA, but we don't understand how to go about the process. And we don't understand when to start it. Because by the time we think that this is the right time, maybe the application deadlines are over, maybe we are too late or we are too early. So today we are going to pinpoint and understand exactly when it is that we should begin our process. It is very important to understand the timing of your prep. So will I be prepping between December and February? Will I be taking my test prep between March and May? So I have to be really realistic about the kind of time that I have. For example, if I'm working, how much time can I really spend on my GMAT on a regular basis? If I'm a student, how much time can I put on the GMAT despite my semesters and my internships? So I am the better judge to decide on these things. Of course, we at Manya are here to help you with your timeline. We are here to look at you, your individual profiles, and help you understand how to go about it. Because tick-tock, the clock is always ticking, and we are always here racing against time, making sure that your dreams come true. Now the thing is, just like everything in life, the early bird will be the one to catch the best school. Be it Stanford or Wharton or Harvard or Booth or MIT or even Kellogg, we at Manya have had admits to all of these schools. Now, here we need to understand what these rounds mean. See, for GMAT, there are different rounds because applications are held in round 1, round 2, and round 3 for international students. Round 4 is not applicable for us in most of the instances. Now for round 1, that means the earliest applications. From there, Stanford will select 8% of candidates. When it comes to round 2, that comes down to 5%. And finally, when it comes to round 3, they would only select 2% of the candidates. And as you look at Wharton, it progressively decreases from 19% to 16% to 0%. Actually, Wharton hardly receives any international applicants in round 3. So you understand how competitive this process can get. Whereas for Harvard, it's from 12% to 6% to only 4%. That means that the faster you begin your application process, the better it is for you. Because the thing that happens is, if you do send in your applications before the round 1 deadlines, your admit will also arrive before the round 2 deadline. So you understand the entire process will be faster for you that way. Now, when are these deadlines? Now, for round 1, the deadlines are between September to October. For example, really feisty universities, for example, Harvard, would close their deadlines by September, whereas for other universities, it could go on till October. For round 2, again, the best of the universities would close their deadlines by November, but for some, it could go on till January. Whereas for round 3, your chances get slimmer and your deadlines are between February and April. So you have to be very, very vigilant about the deadline, and you have to understand which round it is that you want to apply for. Because again, round 1 is very competitive. So the best of the profiles go in for round 1, and it is a very, very competitive process. Whereas if you think that your application is not competitive enough, you might decide to go in for a round 2. So again, this is an individual basis deadline which would be selected accordingly. How much time is really too much time when it comes to your GMAT prep? We do have our one-on-one plans, so which means that if you come in here with a very good score already on a diagnostic test, maybe you just need the slightest push. So you could get your entire preparation over within a month. But if you want to take your time, then 3 to 4 months are our batch courses. So a batch usually takes on for 3 months. It starts with, let's say, a sentence correction or a critical reasoning or a reading comprehension module. So we take up each of these modules in each month, and it goes on for 3 months, and we ask you to practice for another month. So we have our GMAT booster product, which means if you are already scoring a 600, let's say, then we make sure that you go on and reach your dream score of 750. So that's the way it takes place. But again, in China, they say that the average students take 100 days to prepare for the GMAT, for the best course. So again, this also depends on individual to individual, but 3 to 4 months would be the average time to reach your dream score. Now you might be asking me, how do you begin? Because most of us are in the habit of daydreaming. So we think that, yeah, tomorrow is the day when I start with the preparation. But then you have to do that. You have to take the diagnostic test first. Because when you take the first test, you really get acquainted with the questions, with the difficulty levels, with the algorithm of the GMAT test, and then begins your effective preparation. You have to be smart in your preparation. So you have to prepare thoroughly, and more than anything, you have to learn from your own errors. You have to understand what GMAT is expecting of you and act accordingly. And you have to be able to map your performance, craft your own charts. Because the point is, see, a performance is like a triangle. So you have to understand when it is that you have reached the peak. Because the pinnacle of your scores would be then. And if you take too much time, let's say sometimes it so happens that students take 7 months, 8 months because they think that they need more time. Sometimes all that's happening is that your anxiety is increasing and your scores are depleting. So we have to be very judicious about the kind of time that we take as well, because a lot of time does not necessarily translate into a lot of score. This slide will tell us what the GMAT consists of. The GMAT has an AWA section, which is generally quite ignored by the students. Now this AWA section deals with one topic. You have to analyze an argument, and you'll be given 30 minutes to do that. The GMAT gives this to you to check your academic language and your ability to write critically, to analyze an argument and write in a cohesive manner. So your language skills, your critical thinking skills, they are the ones that come to the fore. This is followed by the integrated reasoning, which consists of 12 questions. It will have multi-source reasoning, graphic interpretation, two-part analysis, and table analysis. Now this too will go on for 30 minutes. You have your quant section, which consists of 31 questions. This will have data sufficiency, problem solving, and will go on for 62 minutes. Whereas your verbal section, which consists of 36 questions, comprising of reading comprehension, critical reasoning, and sentence correction, will go on for 65 minutes. So in total, your exam time without your breaks or tutorials would last for 3 hours, 7 minutes. As you can see, it's a long test. So it's very important that you keep your cool and are able to concentrate throughout. Now that requires techniques and strategies, which of course we'll help you with, but more than us, you have to help yourself through consistent practice. So the effective preparation that we spoke of in our mountain slide started off with the diagnostic test. When you do walk into any of our centers across India, this is what we'd ask you to do first. Take the diagnostic test. And when you do take the test, this is what you're going to get. An analysis of your test. See, for this student, he or she scored an 11 out of 60. The time spent on the section, which is a verbal section, as you can see, was 48 minutes 38 seconds. Time on incorrect questions was 31 minutes 30 seconds. Time on correct questions was 17 minutes 7 seconds. And time remaining, which is quite blasphemous, was 16 minutes 21 seconds. You never do this on a test. You buy all the time that you need, but you never leave time unused. First 3 questions were answered incorrectly. Again, this is something that we try and avoid on the GMAT because the GMAT begins with the difficulty level. In this case, it was 6. And the moment you answer a question incorrectly, the difficulty level will fall to a 4, so will your score. And when the student in question answered the next question incorrectly as well, the difficulty level fell to a 3. The less difficult is your question, the lesser is your score. And finally, even this question was answered incorrectly, so the difficulty level fell to a 2, which was finally answered correctly. So maybe the difficulty level would either stick to 2 or rise to a 3 in the next question, but by then the student has already lost quite a few points. This is why we tend to spend a lot more time on the first few questions and consume a lot more time because we want to be scored more on the basis of using the least amount of time. Time remains the same for everybody. Your score is what you're scored on, not your time. So yes, this is a test of speed and accuracy, but accuracy trumps over speed. This is the analysis overview. So in total, the student has 7 plus 3 critical reasoning questions, out of which 7 questions were answered correctly and 3 incorrectly. 4 reading comprehension questions were answered correctly, 9 incorrectly, and sentence correction. There, 9 questions were answered incorrectly, whereas only 4 had credited response. This is the sort of absolute in detail analysis that the Princeton Review portal provides you every time you take a test, because we have to learn from our errors. So the more you analyze your errors, the better you get at the strategies of this test. So just like your verbal section, it's going to provide you with the same in-depth analysis in the quant section, as well as the IR section and the AWA section. We will also provide you with your areas of strength. In case of this student, word problems, critical reasoning, assumption questions, and algebra, simplifying algebraic expressions, were his or her areas of strength, whereas the areas of focus were persons, groups, and ratios and proportions. Verbal was not even mentioned apart from critical reasoning. So for this student, they really needed to work hard in arithmetic persons, word problems groups, and arithmetic ratios and proportions. So we always ask you to go one step at a time. So start working on your focus areas. and get better at your strength areas. How do you do that? So you do that by using something called an error log. So you can simply use the snipping tool to snipe out questions that you're answering incorrectly along with your question explanations, which is also given in the portal. Keep them with yourself in a separate document and keep analyzing your errors. So understand where it is that you went wrong so you can ensure that you do not repeat the same error again. Now, a scratch paper, which is basically an American equivalent to what we call the rough page, is basically where you do your process of elimination. Now, GMAT is a test where you need to eliminate answer choices instead of choosing the correct answer choices, because for verbal it really gets dicey. You don't exactly have a correct answer choice, you only have a least worst answer choice. So there is this entire process of elimination that you do in order to get to the least worst answer choice, which is recorded on your scratch papers. And we always advise you to ensure that you keep all your scratch papers together. So at any point where you feel dubious about a certain question, you can always refer to the scratch paper and see for yourself exactly at which point did you get a particular question incorrect. So till which point were you solving it correctly? Where did you go wrong? So these steps are far more important than getting credited responses when you start off. Now GMAT is almost like a full-time project, you know. You have to give it time every day, even if it's, let's say, 2 hours every day. Now on our portal, you will have strategies and you will have in-depth topic by topic interactive lessons followed by drills for everything. For example, here I've opened the sentence correction, which is under verbal, and under that you can see we have subject-verb agreement, pronouns, verb tense, misplaced modifier, after phrase and underlined, misplaced modifier, phrase underlined, misplaced modifier, non-participle phrase, idioms, clauses and connectors, parallel construction verbs, parallel construction, subjunctive, and comparison. As you can see, the student has completed 100% of the idioms and 33% of the subjunctive, the rest is left. So this portal will show you exactly where you are, how much is left to be done. Because we believe that unless and until you know your alphabet, you know your letters, you cannot really form your words. In this case, unless and until you know your topics that GMAT tests you on, because you have to be GMATically correct. There's nothing called grammar on the GMAT. It's just GMAT has its own grammar and you need to be GMATically correct at every point. And to be GMATically correct, you need to know the GMAT strategies and techniques, which these in-depth topics, these in-depth drills will help you with. Because we go from easy to medium to hard, depending on which level you are at. The AWA analysis is as important. So the moment you write an essay, we are going to analyze that essay and immediately send you the score. In this case, the student scored a 1.5. Let's see what the comments read. So the comments read, essays need an introduction, a body, and conclusion. Easier said than done. So usually we always come up with 3 paragraphs and we think that our introduction and conclusions are there. But are they? Because you see, the introduction and the conclusion are like 2 lands and the body is a bridge between them. So basically what I'm trying to say is, every time you read an introduction and a conclusion, you should be able to understand exactly what is written in the body. Because an introduction and a conclusion, they are nothing but the summary of the body. So it has to be that precise. You cannot write a 1-line, a 1-sentence summary and call it a conclusion. That's not the way it works. So it has to be cohesive, your argument has to have a unity. Discuss how the argument is reasoned rather than its topic. This is not exactly a school essay that you're writing. Here, you are reasoning an argument and critically doing so. You're finding flaws with the argument. Explain how the argument's reasoning could be criticized. As I said, your critical thinking, your ability to think critically will be tested on the AWA. Explain the faulty assumptions on which the argument's conclusion is based. So critical reasoning plays a very important role here because you will have to be able to identify the faulty assumptions on which the conclusion of the argument, not even the entire argument. See, an argument can be broken down into its premise and conclusion. And on the GMAT, the premise is usually taken as the Bible truth, you know. So the conclusion is the one that will be subjected to our critical analysis. And finally, we have to explain how the argument's reasoning could be improved. So here you are studying an argument and telling them how it lacks in scope or how the argument could be made better. The score range was between 0 to 6. It is completely possible to score a 6 in AWA. If not 6, at least a 5.5. If you follow all of these strategies, there's no way you will not score a 5.5 at least. Now, how does the algorithm work? You might have heard that the GMAT is often considered more difficult than CAT. Now, how does that happen? It is because of algorithm. CAT might have certain more difficult questions, but the algorithm is what makes it a tougher exam. Now, the difficulty level of the question depends on the performance in the previous question. You saw in the diagnostic test how the difficulty level of the question kept decreasing because the student kept answering them incorrectly, right? So that is what this means. So now we are going to take two students into consideration. The first student, Amy, answered question 1 with the correct answer. Therefore, the score increased to a 40, so did her difficulty level. She had a credited response even for the second question, and her score jumped to, let's say, a 41-ish. So did the difficulty level. And then she answered question 4 incorrectly, and her score fell to a 38. So did the difficulty level. Then she answered question 5. So she answered question 4 incorrectly again, and the score fell to a 37-ish. So did the difficulty level. Whereas we have another student, Brian, who answered the first question incorrectly, so the score fell to a 21. So did the difficulty level. Answered question 2 incorrectly, so the difficulty level fell to a 19. So did the score. Answered question 3 correctly, so the difficulty level rose a little bit, as did the score. And then answered question 4 correctly, so the difficulty level rose a little bit, so did the score. But despite having similar performance, you can see that Amy is at a higher score than Brian. Why is this the case? Because of what we began with, that at the beginning of the test, you must ensure that you get as many questions correct as possible, because your difficulty level rises that way. And then, even if you start answering questions incorrectly, your difficulty level will fall just as much. But if your difficulty level has already fallen to quite a bit, then when you finally start answering questions correctly, your difficulty level will rise very little because it has really fallen down. So final scores will depend on the number of questions answered correctly, the difficulty of the questions answered, and the number of questions completed. On the GMAT, you have to be able to complete all the questions, otherwise you'll be penalized. So there is no option really to leave any question blank. I hope the algorithm is clear because it can be quite dicey. So I'll just go through this once again. The difficulty level is increasing, let's say by 1 point and by another point. So let's say this is at 3 right now, whereas this might be at 1. And then what happens? Then it will rise very slowly, whereas here she's already at 3. So here maybe she'll come at 2. So this is the way it works. We need to be able to learn how to adapt to the adaptive. So because of this very overwhelming algorithm, all our drills are also of adaptive nature. Geometry and data sufficiency, for example, after its interactive lesson, will give you a drill that's adaptive in nature. So maybe it will start off with easy questions, and then if you're scoring well, it will move on to medium, and then if you're scoring really well, it will go on to give you the harder questions, where if you flounder, it will come down to the medium level, and that is the way your GMAT test also works. Let's now talk about strategies. I have chosen to talk about sentence correction today because this is where, mostly students find difficulty. So most of the students we have, they come here and they say that we have forgotten our school grammar. But the thing is, GMAT is not about your school grammar, and I'll show you how. So when it comes to sentence correction questions, we will first check for grammatically correct grammar, followed by meaning. That is, if a certain answer choice changes the intended meaning of the sentence, we will eliminate it, followed by style, which means that if an answer choice is more concise without changing in meaning, we are going to go for that. Or if an answer choice has no ambiguous pronoun, which means a they or an it, which we just cannot account for because it's not referring back to a particular subject, we can eliminate it. Now, what do I mean by grammatically correct grammar? Because GMAT only tests you on what we call the big 6 or the BPIPs. That is verb tense, which means essentially the tenses of a sentence. For example, if 2 actions are taking place with a time clue in the sentence, that means before or after, then one of them will be in a perfect tense and the other one would be in the simple tense of the equivalent, present or future or past. Then you have the pronouns, which means it tests you on pronoun references, whether the pronoun is referring to a singular subject or a plural subject. Then you have your idioms. Now for idioms, either you know the idioms or you don't, because you really need to learn idioms. You have misplaced modifiers, because modifiers are supposed to be placed, be it your adjective modifiers, adverb modifiers, they have to be placed next to what it modifies, and they will be misplaced. Then you have parallel construction errors, because a sentence has to be parallel in nature, because it has to be grammatically similar. So your modifiers have to be absolutely grammatically parallel to each other, followed by subject-verb agreement. Now subject-verb agreement is the one thing that we have learned in our school. It is about she has and she have. Which one will it be? She has. That you'd be able to tell me. But do you remember the rules for each and every? Do you remember the rules for neither or nor, your collective nouns? So your subject-verb agreement errors would be as simple as that. If you keep all of these in your mind, this should not be very difficult for you. So let's look at a question. If you have your OG 2019 with you, this is question number 805, which is on page 806. So I'll probably give you a few seconds to open your books if you do have the book with you. I'll repeat again, page 806 of OG 2019, question number 805. Alright, so the sentence reads, although she was considered among her contemporaries to be the better poet than her husband, later Elizabeth Barrett Browning was overshadowed by his success. As you can see, the sentence has only one period. That is what your GMAT sentence correction statements are going to have. It's just one statement, and the entire sentence is underlined, which means we have to look for a correct statement entirely. Now we almost never read A again because answer choice A will repeat our original statement. The reason I asked you to open your OGs to page 806 is because I wanted you to see their explanation and the way they have solved it. So option A, which is my statement, said the better poet when two poets were being compared. So when two poets are compared, you usually say a better poet than, or you simply say Elizabeth Barrett Browning is the better poet without any mention of the other one. That is the reason your OG is eliminating answer choice A. B is being eliminated because of awkward construction. Now why is that? Because it says as considered, was considered among her contemporaries as a better poet than her husband. So as considered among her contemporaries, as is awkward and unnecessarily creates a potential misreading. That's what your OG tells you, which is why they eliminate B as well. So if you do have scratch papers, I figured it's a better way to show you. So I eliminate A and I eliminate B, therefore I know that I will not go back and read them again. Now let's look at answer choice C. Answer choice C says, later overshadowed by the success of her husband, Elizabeth Barrett Browning's poetry. So you see there's a comma here, and after that you have Elizabeth Barrett Browning's poetry, which means the subject becomes Elizabeth Barrett Browning's poetry, which is being compared with her husband. Now that is not my intended subject, which is why they're eliminating C as well. Now, when you read answer choice D, they say that this version avoids the problem of the other versions, which is why they are holding on to it. Now they're saying that answer choice E comically compares Elizabeth Barrett Browning's poetry. So Elizabeth Barrett Browning's poetry was considered among her contemporaries as better than her husband. So here, poetry is being compared to husband, and on GMAT we know that apples cannot be compared to oranges. You can only compare X with X and not X with Y, which is why they are eliminating E as well. Although this is correct explanation, it does take a lot of time and requires a lot of reading. Probably this is not the best way in which we can solve this. There's a relatively easier and faster way of solving it. So, Okay, so somebody says that they would like answer choice E to be explained again. Madhumita. Right. So Madhumita, answer choice E says Elizabeth Barrett Browning's poetry was considered among her contemporaries as better than her husband. So you see, poetry is being compared with her husband. That is the reason we are eliminating answer choice E, because you can only compare poetry with poetry and Elizabeth Barrett Browning with her husband, and not Elizabeth Barrett Browning's poetry with her husband. That is the reason why we eliminate answer choice E. But now I'm going to show you a faster way which we at Quincy Review use to solve sentences like this. Although she was considered. Now, considered does not idiomatically take a preposition after it, but this says considered to be. Now, considered to be is incorrect. Considered, as I said, does not take a preposition after it. Therefore, we eliminate answer choice E. Answer choice B says was considered as. Therefore, we eliminate answer choice B as well, because considered doesn't take a preposition after it. We read answer choice C and it says considered to be again. Therefore, we eliminate answer choice C as well. Now, answer choice D says considered the. Therefore, we hold on to it. Whereas answer choice C will tell you considered as. Therefore, we eliminate this one as well. So, as you can see, we don't even need to read the entire statement. Again, another even faster method of solving this would be, we know that considered does not take a preposition after it. I know I'm eliminating A because it says considered to be. I'm going to quickly find repeaters, obvious repeaters to eliminate. When I try to do the same, I will know that answer choice C also says considered to be. So immediately I eliminate A and C together. Now I go back to B. B says considered as. Now I know it cannot be considered as well. I eliminate B and I look for another obvious repeater, which when I do, I will eliminate E as well. Therefore, automatically I'm only left with answer choice D, which is then my credited response, which says considered the better poet. So although Elizabeth Barrett Browning's success was later overshadowed by that of her husband, among her contemporaries, she was considered the better poet. Therefore, answer choice D is my answer. You see how a statement can be read and solved only within a few seconds if I know my idiom rules. So I don't really need to go into construction and other details if I can just remember that considered does not take a preposition after it. These are the sort of strategies which are going to help you effectively for your preparation, because like I said, GMAT is about effective preparation and not about a lot of preparation, because sometimes we tend to work very hard without achieving the results that we need. So now Madhumita is asking me where she's going to get the idiom root. So in our books, we have a list of idioms which are exactly what the GMAT test you want. So we are going to provide you with the list of idioms. No worries. We have all of these grammar rules to help you effectively prepare. Now I have a question for you. I'd like you to consider this. Just like GMAT helps you consider your roots. Would you rather spend half a minute on a question and answer it incorrectly than spend a minute on the same for a credited response? So would you rather go for speed, like the student whose diagnostic test we saw did, or would you go for accuracy instead, spending a lot of time and making sure that your question is correct so your difficulty level rises so that you score? So I have a person telling me that they would rather go for accuracy. What about the rest? Can you please quickly type it down in your chat box and send it to me? So I have a lot of people telling me that they would rather go for accuracy. Thank you so much. you're right. So we have a technique in place for you to help you do just that. We call this the pacing chart. This is the quantitative and verbal pacing for standard time. Standard time means the time that is provided to you. So quant pacing tells you that if your score is somewhere under 35, then you should spend the first 30 minutes on the first 10 questions, followed by 22 minutes on the second set of 10 questions, followed by 10 minutes on questions 21 to 31. 11 questions. If your score, on the other hand, goes above 42, this time will dramatically change into a 20 minutes for the first 10 questions, a 20 minutes for the second 10 questions, second set of 10 questions, followed by 22 minutes for the last 11 questions. Now, okay, somebody asked me if they can have the PPT. I'm sure we try and upload it on our Princeton Review website, our Manya website, so you can peruse it at your will. Now we come to our verbal pacing. Verbal pacing is very, very different from quant pacing. How's that? So if your score is under 28, which is the case for most of the students when they come in, they have scores of 9 and 11, then you should be spending 30 minutes on the first 10 questions, followed by 22 minutes on the next 10 questions, only 10 minutes for the third set of questions, and 3 minutes for the last 5 questions. That's what you're supposed to do. I'm sorry, the last 6 questions. And if your score rises above 34, even then, you spend 25 minutes, which is enough time to read your reading comprehension, which is, I know how much you love your reading comprehension. So you have enough time to read it, to solve it, and to really score out there before moving on to the second set of questions, where your difficulty level will already be high if you've scored well. And you spend 20 minutes, which is again abundant time to score well. You have time to read your reading comprehension again. And then you have 15 minutes. So let's say you're very confident with your sentence correction questions and your critical reasoning questions, but not so confident about your reading comprehension questions. You can just choose to maybe solve 1 or 2 and move on. Whereas for the last 6 questions, you basically maybe solve 1 or 2 sentence correction questions. For example, the idiom question which I showed you and which took only a few seconds. And for the rest of them, you can simply use LOTD. LOTD means letter of the day. That means you can have, let's say, C is my letter of the day. So for all of the questions that I don't have time to answer, I'll just click on C and move on. Because even if probability is to be considered, I'll still have 1 or 2 points that way. I want you to look at this student's score. So when he started off, this is a student of mine called Rajat, who is probably present at this webinar. So Rajat started with a score of 9 in verbal. And by the time Rajat was ready to take the second test, he scored a 36. And from 36 in quant, his score also increased to a 41. So what did Rajat do differently that all of you can do? So your score improves and increases as dramatically as well. Rajat simply was consistent with his practice. So he practiced every day, and more than that, he maintained his scratch papers, he maintained his error log, and he kept following up with the errors, so he knew that he didn't repeat any. He can all score as well. You know, he started off with a 400, and so proud of him, he is now at 630. And this is just his second test. I'm sure he's going to improve even from here and end up scoring his dream score. Please remember that GMAT is not the be-all and end-all of your entire MBA application. You have so many professional essays to write, mostly 2 or 3 depending on the university, sometimes even. So after how much time did you take the second test? That's one question. He took the second test after 2 weeks. Sorry, it was, I think, 2.5 weeks. That's the kind of time he took. Coming back, you also have, video essays sometimes. You need your letters of recommendation. You need a very, very strong resume, which sometimes some people have 4 to 5 years of work ex. Some of you are going for your MBA directly after your university degree. So ensure that even after having taken your GMAT, you leave enough room, space, and time for yourself to work on essays, letters of recommendation, and resumes to make for a strong application, because all of these, culminate into ensuring that you get into your dream school, whichever it may be. And now I'm going to talk about something very important, which is stress and how to deal with it. So again, I have some of my old students with me right now come back and tell me that they are trying to practice as much as possible. They have taken sabbatical off work, but it's still not working out. So what is it that they're doing differently? So the point is, I'm not sure how much it helps if you decide to lock yourself away in a room and attract all these negative energies that tell you that the dream college, the dream school, wherever it is that you want to go, is not possible because of what your other friends' experiences have been. Because we all have our friends and their sets of advice, and we have our families who sometimes probably are not at the same space as we are in. Maybe their dreams are not in sync with ours. Maybe it's the right time to sit and attract positive energy, find your timeline, and work your own way, because your dream has been given to you because you are the sole person who is capable of handling it, because you are the sole bearer of the dream. You have to ensure that you go on with it till the world sees it too. So how do you attract your positive energy and build your happy space? You do that by releasing negative energy. And you can release negative energy through dance movement therapy. If you like dancing, so just, get into your rooms and dance it all away. Play on loud music and dance, play outdoor sports. Stop playing PUBG, guys. I know how much you love your PUBGs, but I'm not sure how murdering zombies and vampires and people in your phones is helpful. Be inspired. I'm sure you have your dreams, you have your people who inspire you. Maybe you can just listen to motivational speeches. You can be inspired by words, through books or movies or music or stand-up comedy. So whatever it is that interests you, go find your happy place and do that. And don't forget to breathe, most importantly. Stick to a routine. So, studying 10 hours for GMAT during your weekends and not studying at all during 5 other weekdays is not the remedy. It's not going to help you. Make sticky notes if they help you this way, and write down whatever it is that you need to do. So you have your routine. So you know exactly what it is that you want to accomplish. So maybe begin every day by writing down what you need to accomplish on that day. And before you go to sleep, you can just strike off the ones that you've already accomplished, because that way it is so tangible. You can see your success on a page. With our absolutely absurd lifestyle, sometimes we forget that we need our nutrition, we need our fresh fruits, and we definitely need our water despite our soft drinks. So please ensure to do that, to consume enough of your fresh fruits and water. More importantly, and most importantly, please don't forget to take care of your mental health. If meditation is what you like, and here I'm not talking about the traditional meditation if you're not into it, you can also do your very classy and what they say is postmodern meditation these days that Om Vana provides you with, for example, which tells you, yeah, go for your dreams, your dream is your meditation, and it tells you a lot of those things. And if you're interested, I could probably send you a link or two to help you with that. It's very effective. Please get 7 to 8 hours of sleep and find your tribe. So I'm sure there are people who give you the vibes that you need in your life at this point. Find them and keep them near you. You probably don't need that friend right now who's telling you that it's better to go get a certain job instead of, studying for your GMAT and going for the MBA that you want. Because at the end of the day, it's your life, your choice, and it's that one dream that you have. There's no reason why you should not go for it. And here at Manya, we always say that we are here for our students. We are here to ensure that your dreams come true. Now, in order to do that, we are going to be providing you with the strategies and the techniques. So we will be putting in 10% of our efforts, but the rest of the 90% has to come from your side. And that 90% translates into consistent practice every day. So we can only give you the instructions, but you have to ensure that you internalize the same and translate the same into your actions every day. And we always say that if you can dream it, if you can believe in that dream, then you can definitely achieve your dream score of a 700 plus or 750 plus. Are you ready for the GMAT adventure? That is the question that you need to ask yourself. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, please feel free to type it in the chat box. I hope today's webinar was helpful for you, was helpful to all those people who have been dreaming of studying for their GMAT for quite some time, but have not been able to find the time or have not had the requisite information to do the same. So somebody is asking me about the class schedule. As mentioned before, we have our one-on-one classes for those who want to finish the course sooner than, let's say, 3 months, because our batch courses usually go on for 3 months because it's a very well-paced schedule. So you have enough time to practice. So let's say the first month you begin with sentence correction. So you have weekend classes if you need. So during the weekend 3-hour sessions, we do sentence correction with you for 4 classes of verbal, and then same goes for quant, in your quant topics. That will be followed by your CR for the next month, which will then be followed by your RC. So that way you have 3 months of well-paced schedule, but for one-on-one classes, that one-on-one class will depend on your schedule and your time, and you can choose to finish the course within a month if you want to. It all depends on you and your time and your availability and wherever you are at life right now. So if you're working, if you're a student, it really depends on all of these efficiencies. So ideally, how many hours of study in a day is required? Vishal, thank you for the question. This is so subjective. So if you already have been into GMAT for quite some time and practicing from different sources, then a lot of unlearning is needed, right? So again, that depends on you. When we give you the strategies and the techniques, it depends on you exactly how much time you need to internalize them with them and by consistent practice. So it could differ from anywhere between 2 hours every day to 4 hours every day. Again, if you're on a sabbatical from work or if you are on vacation from school, then you could give it 5 hours every day. But if you're working every day, then probably you don't have more than 2 or 3 hours every day. So these are the things that this question really depends on. Is there any other question? Right. So if we don't have any other questions, we're going to call it a day. Thank you so much for joining us today. We at Manya are always here for you. Please remember that. And we expect more scores, and more dreams to be fulfilled. Thank you so much.